So who are the people who seem now to be running our lives and our world and planning our future? I've made a list of some of the people who would go onto my personal list of the most dangerous people on the planet. The folk I wouldn't like to have round to dinner if I were the sort of person who liked having strangers round to dinner, which I'm afraid I'm not. Well, first on my list is, of course, our self-appointed medical expert, Mr. Gейтс, who has more fingers in more pies than anyone would have thought possible for someone with the normal number of fingers. The other day we asked our television set if Bil Gейтс is a psychopath. The answer from the voice inside the television was, on Wikipedia he is referred to as a pure psychopath. That was our TV set's opinion, not mine, but what can you say? It seems that even television sets have a view on Mr. Gейтс these days. If there's something nasty and threatening going on anywhere in the world, the chances are high that Gейтс has invested in it. Gейтс has been funding scientists at Harvard who are trying to block out the sun's rays in an attempt to stop global warming. If you haven't heard of this before, just stop and think for a moment. The scientists want to spray millions of tons of dust into the stratosphere to stop the sun's rays reaching the Earth. One plan is that every day more than 800 large aircraft would lift millions of tons of chalk dust to a height of 12 miles above the Earth and then sprinkle the dust to stop the sun's rays getting through. Another plan is to send up hot air balloons to release powder into the atmosphere. There are, you won't be surprised to hear, a couple of problems with this. Obviously, the first is that no one's yet proved that global warming is taking place and is anything more than a natural phenomenon, even if it is. Moreover, there are a lot of scientists who believe that we're heading into a phase where the planet is actually cooling. And there are those who think that the Gейтс money and the scientists throwing powder into the sky could help to create droughts, hurricanes and mass deaths. It seems fairly well agreed that altering the atmosphere to cool the planet could have unpredictable effects. In 1815, a volcanic eruption created crop shortages and disease outbreaks. Some might say, of course, that all this could be considered a bonus by a man who wants to reduce the world population. No one seems to have told him, by the way, that 800 large aircraft taking off every day and flying to 12 miles up would require a good deal of aviation fuel. And what sort of dust are they planning to have sprayed? Well, some say calcium, but I've also heard talk that barium, alumina and strontium might be used. Whatever it is won't improve the quality of the air we breathe. Bottom line is that this seems to me to be a way to reduce the world's population rather than to protect it, all in the guise of dealing with the climate change hoax. And then there's George Soros. Let me tell you something about George Soros. He's a man who has apparently admitted that he's here to make money, and he's done reasonably well at it. He's alleged to have $25 billion in his piggy bank. He doesn't seem to me to give a damn about anything else, people, society or any of that stuff. He just loves money. The mainstream media describe him as a philanthropist, though to be honest, if he still has $25 billion, he hasn't given too much of it away. One of the most chilling interviews I've ever seen was in 1998 when Soros was interviewed for the 60 Minutes program. I found it scary. Soros admitted that when he was a teenager, he worked with the Nazis to confiscate property from the Jews. Did he feel bad about it? Was it difficult? Not at all, he said. He felt no guilt. I can't remember whether he actually said it or not, but the implication seemed to me to be clear. If he didn't do it, someone else would have done it. These days, Soros is rumoured to give money to the Black Lives Matter and to Antifa. Now, why would he do that? Is there perchance profit to be made? Could it be perhaps that he's deliberately trying to eradicate our history by pulling down statues and stir up trouble so that it's easier to break down society ready to accept the global reset he and his co-conspirators are so keen on? I have no idea. Who else would make the list? Well, the seemingly brainwashed little Swedish girl, of course. Her bleating and whining about the end of the world has proved enormously useful to those pushing Agenda 21 on the global reset and the plans for a new world order. Personally, I think she's been used very cleverly by the black-hearted folk who need a seemingly innocent front for the climate change nonsense. They needed someone who seemed innocent and honest and whom it would be very difficult for critics to question or to attack. How the devil can you ask serious questions of a little Swedish girl who looks to be about 7 years old and very earnest? But she and all the other Greens definitely go onto my list of people I'm afraid I don't like. Oh, and I include Greenpeace in there too. Let me tell you a little something about Greenpeace, gold medal winners of my Sanctimonious Organisation Year Award for the last 287 years. Greenpeace campaigns to have the world's oil left in the ground, but in 2014 a Greenpeace senior executive was reported to have been commuting by plane for 2 years. The employee who had been flying regularly from Luxembourg to Amsterdam was defended by the executive director of Greenpeace UK, who seemed to think it was acceptable for the employee to fly so much so that he could balance his job with the needs of his family. In February 2020, Greenpeace bought a full-page advertisement in the Financial Times to reprint a letter that the executive director of Greenpeace UK had sent to BP, the oil company. The letter, demanding an end to the use of fossil fuels, was in my view the most arrogant letter I've ever read. I can only assume that Greenpeace would nevertheless like BP to continue making a small amount of fuel available for planes used by its employees. That level of hypocrisy seems to me to be so great that it's impossible to measure. Next on my list, and something of a newcomer, goes the boss of the Metropolitan Police in London. On the day before it became the law that English citizens had to wear masks in shops, for no very good reason that I could think of, Cressida Dick, the police commissioner for the Metropolitan Police in London, and not, as far as I know, a doctor of medicine, was reported to have said that the police will only enforce the law on wearing masks as a last resort. "My hope," she was quoted as saying, "is that the vast majority of people will comply, and that people who are not complying will be shamed into complying or shamed to leave the store." Close the quotes. Of course, as we should all remember, Cressida Dick should know all about shame. She was, of course, the officer who made the decision for the police to shoot a young innocent Brazilian man in 2005. Police apparently shot 11 times from close range. They managed to shoot the entirely innocent man 7 times in the head and once in the shoulder. "I think about it quite often," Dick allegedly said last year while chatting on a BBC programme called Desert Island Discs. Quite often? Most people, I suspect, would think about it pretty well all the time. I suspect I'm not entirely alone in thinking she should have been sacked after an innocent citizen was shot and killed. I certainly called for it at the time. Instead, she now has a top police job and believes that those choosing not to damage their health by wearing useless masks should be made to feel ashamed. I'm not entirely sure that encouraging other shoppers to shame non-mask wearers is entirely within Ms. Dick's role in the police. And does this woman not realise that the government has made it clear that people with health problems, including anxiety, do not have to wear masks, and nor do young children? Is she suggesting that these individuals, who may be fearful for many reasons, be deliberately shamed? Are the police officially suggesting that patients with respiratory and heart disease be deliberately shamed? Is Dick suggesting that those with mental health problems be shamed? Does she want us to run after the disabled who cannot wear masks and smother them with abuse? How precisely would she like people to shame their fellow citizens? My contempt for Cressida Dick is endless. We should all join together to demand that this woman be officially shamed and sacked. An apology is not enough. Write to your MP, write to the newspapers. If you do nothing else today, do what you can to get this woman fired. She is an utter disgrace to the human race, in my view. Encouraging people to shame the sick and the frail and the anxious and the mentally ill, and presumably shaming children too. It is, I believe, at least partly as a result of her urging, that I have seen non-mask wearers being shouted at in shops. A civilized society discusses complex issues by debate, but in our society, debate is banned. And instead of discussing issues, the opposition, the Gates and Soros-supporting, mask-wearing, line-towing folk, encourage the routine shaming and humiliation of those who do not agree to click their heels and salute those who would run our lives, control our every movement, and enslave us with an unending variety of laws which have little or no basis in science. Finally, on this short list of a few of those whom I hold in contempt are the collaborators, the mindless millions who are willingly wearing masks and kowtowing to the dictators who want to rule our lives and are using as an excuse a virus which is no more deadly than the flu. How many of those who are currently wearing masks in shops wore them last year to protect themselves against the flu? And if they didn't wear masks to protect themselves against the flu, why didn't they? The risks were then much as they are today. However, our main enemies in this war are not Soros, Gates, the little Swedish girl, Dick, or the rest of them. Our main enemies are the collaborators who are too damned lazy to seek out the truth for themselves. I reserve my greatest contempt for them. It's our bloody country, and we want it back. Thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair, and thank you for your support and encouragement. If you can click the thumbs up button and maybe even write a little comment, it will help keep the videos alive. Please copy and share these videos on Twitter, Facebook, BitChute and any other platform you know of. If you want to put on a translation, that's fine. If the videos disappear, please go to my website www.vernoncoleman.com to see where you might be able to find them, or to read the transcripts of the videos as well as the banned videos. This video site and my website have not been monetized. There are no ads and no sponsorship. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please subscribe to the channel, because the videos have a tendency to disappear. Although it may seem like it at times, please remember you're not on your own. More and more people are waking up to the truth, and we will win this war. Thank you for watching.